comparing, the I don't know, like probably the disappointment of Rio versus the disappointment of the trials in 2021.
Yeah, but listen, nothing can hurt as bad as Rio.
Okay.
Like, and it sounds like a cliche where you're like, yeah, sure. I'm telling you, nothing like shocked me to the core of my pride and my ego as much as Rio did. It was a very difficult experience for me. I kind of retreated back into this dark place for a long period of time immediately after. But now, there's so much excitement outside of the wrestling arena for me that it's a little bit easier of a shift to go from, wrestler, competitor to dad, husband, and just influencer, leader in the community. Like, there's so many different avenues that I find excitement and meaning from that. My identity is not fully tied into wrestling as much as it was in 2016. So that difficult time, experiencing that loss, everything that came afterward really helped me prepare for pretty much any loss. It'll never be as rough as it was in Rio.
And I guess you kind of answered, but did you tie too much of your identity to wrestling back then?
Oh, I think there always has to be a certain amount of identity tied within the sport because you gain so much from it. Like, I've been wrestling since I was 6 years old. So over 20 years in the game, I've done most of my significant, meaningful accomplishments have been within the sport. My character, everything that I've learned has been from the sport. So I am a wrestler, and I am who I am because of the sport of wrestling and everything that I've learned from it. So your identity is going to always be strongly tied, but I think that ultimately, I look at the greats in any sport. LeBron, Serena, Tom Brady, Tiger Woods, all of these individuals that have won at a very high clip. There are a lot of years that they don't win, right? If you would consider the greatest football player of all time, Tom Brady, you say, okay, well, how many championships has he won? 6. Okay, well, how many years has he played? Well, 19. And that means 13 other years he wasn't a champion. And, he goes to the offseason, goes back to the drawing board, takes some time, vacations with his family, and then gets back to it and tries to do it all over again. So I think that's kind of the place where I am, is less about the losses, more about the performance. How can I figure this out the next time? Sure, there are a lot of things that I would like to have gained this summer, a lot of memories that I could have shared moving forward, and challenge that I wanted to overcome and making the team once again. But I think ultimately the ability to do special stuff is still there. We got a world championship in October, which is great, so I don't have to wait an entire year to get another shot at something meaningful. I'm fine.
I guess you mentioned that dark place in 2016, and how dark is it? It's hard to quantify, but like, if you can explain that, or how long did that last?
That was a couple of months. There was a lot of embarrassment, a lot of shock, and just like, shoot, I lost so much. Like, winning the Olympics would be cool again, but it's not really going to change my life dramatically. So, I think that when you're in it, you can't see what it's like on the other side of it. Plus, I had 2 losses in 5-6 years then. Now I've got about 10, 12. So I've lost a lot more, become more accustomed to it. So now it's just a process of trying to figure out how to be better. I'm still seeking that perfect performance. And I think that's what keeps me in the sport. Like, I still feel like I'm really good at this. And I think you want to get past that awkward phase. That's the hardest part. It's like when you see everyone for the very first time after a competition, they're like, oh man, I'm sorry it didn't go your way. Or, hey, I watched you wrestle. And so you're just like, anyone who says that, like, I watched you wrestle, means that they saw you fail. And it's tough. That's difficult to reckon with sometimes. So, once you get past that awkward phase and you can get back to kind of normalcy where people just greet you and your friends again and not, this charity case, I think that's when you finally get back into this good time. But I feel good. I feel strong. I feel great at camp. I'm going to go up to 79 kilos. I still feel like I'm one of the best wrestlers in the world, and I think that I can and will be a world champion again.